It'd just be something where it's kind of like, wow, this Dodgers team, they have maximized their, because look at that. How do you add to the lineup anymore? I mean, maybe go out there. Here's something I want to ask you. Are you happy with where the outfield is with Tommy Edman being locked into the center field spot? Or would you consider trading with the Chicago White Sox potentially for a Luis Robert Jr., who is elite in center field, and you got Conforto, you got Teoscar Hernandez, you still can use left field for some other guys in certain spots, but are you happy to lock Tommy Edman into that center field spot, or would you still consider adding to the position player side maybe with the trade?
Yeah, I don't like locking Tommy Edman in center field. That he's not a real power hitter unless it's right from the right side against Sean Manaea. But his value is his versatility. It's like Taylor used to be, maybe still, and Kike. There's so much value in the versatility. Now, hey, lock him in October, but during the season, you want him all over the place. If you have a chance to get Robert Jr., you got to take a look at it. Personally, if they were to make that move, it probably would include Gavin Lux. I put Mookie back at second. I put Tommy Tanks at short for now, with Miguel Rojas possibly coming in here and there, and Tommy moving over. That adds that versatility back into it. And I know Mookie's locked in at short right now. Allegedly, we'll see. But to get it, Robert Jr., who has 3 years left at 15 to 17 million a year or something like that. He is an elite talent. He's also he is an injury issue, but again, if you can have him in October, say he plays only 100 games during the regular season, I kind of don't care. Dodgers are going to win a lot of games with or without Luis Robert Jr. But if he's in October, it's a different story.
See, that's the thing right there, is that with Robert Jr., he has only played over 100 games once. That one time he did, he had 38 home runs, and he proved to be one of the best players at his position. And it's also, the contract is extremely affordable if he reaches that potential. We're talking about someone that wouldn't just make an all-star team. We're talking about someone that would get MVP votes up the ballot. And he's a guy that it would be really affordable when you look at his contract. I mean, Luis Robert Jr., when you look at his deal, he had $20 million club options for 2026 and 2027, and you give him $15 million for 2025. And he doesn't have a no trade or anything like that. So it's a very favorable contract for someone of that caliber. And I like what you said about Tommy Edman, because the truth about Tommy Edman is, if he played his entire career in center field, if he played just with the Dodgers in center field, would he sign a 5-year, $74 million extension? I don't think he would. I mean, he was a little above average as a center fielder with the Dodgers last season. In 2023, he was about 5 outs above average with the Cardinals, who he played above average center field. But with the glove, he's at his best when you're moving around. You use him in the infield as well. You use him at second, you use him at short. I think they're going to give Eddie Paz some opportunities. I mean, he's not going to be completely locked into center field or anything like that. Can move some things around. But I'm 100% agreeing with you. We said that Tommy Edman was the ultimate Andrew Friedman player, right? That it was that meme where it's the upgrade key, right? And it's Chris Taylor, you hit the upgrade key, and then Tommy Edman pops out. If that's the case, you don't lock a guy into one position for 80, 90% of his innings. So I think that has to be on their minds, right? It has to be on their minds. And a domino effect of that would be trading Gavin Lux. So I just want to get your, at the moment, January 2nd, 2025 take on Gavin Lux, Mr. Tim Rogers.
I am still hopeful. I think he's the MLB said, hey, what's the best lineup in baseball? And I got Lux in there batting ninth. And I'm like, that doesn't bother me one bit. Is he going to be the player we all thought he was going to be in 2019? Maybe not. But I still like what's there. I thought he played really good defense for us. I rewatched Game 5 early last week, and he made some nice plays out there. I mean, the guy can actually play a good second base. He did have the game tying RBI. Got the bat on the ball when he needed to. Now his overall postseason numbers weren't that great, but he played a key role. And I'm not one of those say, let's get rid of him for no reason. No, if I get Luis Robert Jr., yes, then I'm willing to trade Gavin Lux. But I'm not willing to give him away like some of these people. They want to give him away for a bologna sandwich or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, no, he's a value. He has
chips,
value.
right? Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's something that I think people lose sight of when discussing Gavin Lux, is that if you're saying you would be willing to trade Gavin Lux, does that mean you're saying you think he's a bad player? Is that even you saying that you don't think he can make the All-Star team? I don't think that's the case. It is, we're giving up something to get something, and it's about fit on this team. If Mookie Betts was 27 years old, 28 years old, and winning Gold Gloves in right field, this wouldn't be a conversation, right? Because Mookie Betts would be playing Gold Glove corner outfield spots. You're giving you production at the plate, playing like an MVP, and you would say, you know what are you talking about? Gavin Lux is a former top prospect. Sure, maybe he couldn't play shortstop at the big league level. He hasn't proven that yet, but we'll take a above average defensive second baseman that after the All-Star break really was a top 10 hitter for a couple months there. Now, can he catch lightning in a bottle and perform that way for an entire season? Probably not, but I do think that he's closer to the hitter he was after the All-Star break than the hitter he was at the beginning of last season.
Yeah, completely agree with that. Yeah, I mean, what happened at the beginning of the season with him? Of course, he's still he had to recover from that whole demotion from shortstop, and it was a demotion, having to go back to second base. I'm sure that got into his head. Who wouldn't, right? And then he still had the knee injury to deal with. That he seemed tentative for quite a bit, but once things seem to kind of break loose in a good way with his head, who wouldn't be a little nervous about having what happened to his knee and going, what if that happens again? He had to get past that. So I think he got past a lot of things, and he had the support. The Dodgers were supporting him, even though I think a lot of us were talking like, man, it's getting close to the trade deadline. This guy might be optioned. But he rebounded, he reacted in a positive way, and yeah, good for him. I'm pleased with him. But like you said, we make that trade. We make the right trade. Then it'd be good for him. It wouldn't hurt him either, because he's gonna play at the major league level with some team. That's for sure.
That's for sure, right? I mean, he has speed. He has some versatility. I mean, they tried him in the outfield, right? But I like that you pointed out, a lot of people forget that he did have the sac fly. He did keep it off the ground in that pivotal game 5, and he was a big reason why they won. I mean, the thing about things, the fact that we weren't talking about Gavin Lux a lot in the postseason kind of was a good thing, right? Because if you're talking about Gavin Lux, it's almost like, you're talking about him because you want him to be optioned, you want him to be traded, this and that, and it kind of goes back to the fact that, you just kind of further reflect on this World Series championship. Gavin Lux was a couple weeks away from getting optioned. Walker Buehler was a couple weeks away from getting released. And both those teams served a role for this team, right? Walker Buehler was next level, but still, I mean, I think with Gavin Lux, the question I have is, are you crazy enough to give him another shot at shortstop? For most teams, maybe. But for this team that's as all in as any team, not just baseball, as all in as any team in all of professional sports, with that kind of pressure, would you be willing to try him again at shortstop?
I had talked about that, and I think if they would have said, hey, at the beginning of spring training, we're not going to give it to him. You got to earn it. And if he earns it, I'm okay with that. It's kind of like with some of these other guys, the Bobby Millers, the James Outmans. I'm not going to judge them completely based on last year or previous performances. For somebody, they got to earn it. And if Lux if they wanted him to try shortstop, sounds like they won't, he would have to earn it. No, there's no gifts to the question marks. The guys that have already earned it, Mookie Betts, you get to play wherever you want, it sounds like. Freddie Freeman, locked in. Even Max Muncy, he's locked in. Teo's locked in. Will Smith's locked in. Those Shohei Ohtani, of course. Those guys are locked in. Other guys, you got to earn these things. There's no gifts right now. Nobody gets any gifts anymore that are unearned. So I was open to it. They're not going to do it. Maybe another team would do it to him. It would enhance his value if he could prove he could play shortstop. That's for sure. But it's not going to happen with the Dodgers.
See, then if that's the case, I think that almost seals his fate with his team in some capacity. Because if you are, the Dodgers are going to be fine with you not being versatile if you hit like Mookie, if you hit like Freddie, if you hit like Teoscar Hernandez, right? The question that they're going to have to answer is, if Gavin Lux isn't hitting at an above average all-star level, then how can you make sense of just having him lock up that position? So if they're not going to try him at shortstop again, if you don't, they're convincing themselves that Mookie is that guy that with a full off season can play shortstop at a passable level. And yes, when you factor in what he does at the plate, he's still going to be an above average shortstop. But my question is, what kind of toll does that take on him for an entire 162 game season? Still, you can get Rojas in there and you can get Edman in there, and there's other options that give him a breather for sure. But still, if you're going to play shortstop, you're going to play shortstop, and it's a long season. If you're going to be the permanent guy there, you're still going to play a lot of baseball at that position, and that's going to take a physical toll on you. How big of a concern is that for you, Mookie being a full-time shortstop for the Dodgers, and what that could mean as far as bleeding into his offensive performance?
It's one of my biggest concerns. Especially when September, October comes around. I mean, Mookie kind of got some monkey off his back with his postseason performance. I mean, he had a great postseason. He batted over 290, I believe, in the postseason, and obviously had key things, played great defense out there. But man, I'm not in charge, obviously, but this is not what I would be doing. I'd be going into the camp with Tommy Tanks at short and Mookie at second. But eventually, and this is for kind of wind it right back to Lux. Mookie Betts is not going to be the shortstop for the next 5 years. It's 1 or 2 years. It might even be 3 months.